based polymer instead of using plastic for our bags, for our for our water bottles. It also creates a culture of waste reduction and a sense of responsibility to protect the environment. Since with this culture of waste reduction, there'll be less pollution, less plastic waste all around. All right. Finally is our fifth, fifth argument. Why do we think that this is the most effective way to reduce plastic waste? It's because by the advantages of using this way to reduce plastic waste, it promotes the sustainable alternatives, as I've said before, with the plant-based polymer for your bags, your generally just bags and water bottles. It also encourages recycling and waste management, so you don't end up with the landfills filled with plastic spoons, with plastic bottles. It also preserves the ecosystems and biodiversity, like I said before, with the marine life. By banning the use of these single-use plastics, we're not polluting or contaminating the waters as much. Therefore, the biodiversity and the marine life present within those waters aren't affected as much as they would if we didn't ban the use of plastics in all single-use items. Finally, is that it also mitigates climate change, as I said before. Burning plastics to reduce them, it creates carbon emissions that contribute to the greenhouse gas problem. And by banning the use of single-use plastics, there's no more plastics being made for these single-use items. Therefore, there's not that much plastic to incinerate. Therefore, less carbon gas emissions and a decrease in greenhouse gas and climate change. For now, that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to everyone in this room, especially to the honorable dedicators. Also, good afternoon to my teammates. Also, good afternoon to the government team. And I would like to thank you for the opportunity today, for letting me advance this far in this competition. And for today, I stand here as the first speaker of the opposition team, representing on the motion that this House would ban the use of plastic. So we do not agree with today's motion because banning plastic is not a good solution in order to reduce plastic waste that, as the government team have stated as their definition, due to several reasons. Firstly, plastic has become an integral part of our modern lives now, and it has also revolutionized the way we use this certain material. The fact is, almost every single thing that we see in our modern lives now is related to plastic usage, from the way it is produced with the help of plastic and to the way it is transported or packaged with also the help of plastic. And with that said, overall, banning the use of plastics would make everyday lives more complicated. And instead of this banning decision is meant to be a solution, it can become actually something that can worsen the issues relating plastic waste. Now, because of this, we, as the opposition team, believe that the best solution is not to ban plastic, but instead creating a problem-solving solutions to overcome plastic issues. Now, but what kind of solutions, you ask? Well, that brings us to my first argument. First of all, is to create a better method and formula to produce plastic. Now, as the government team have stated that plastics take a really long time to degrade naturally, which can harm animals and even enter our foods that we consume, such as microplastics. And this is why we should come up with a better method and formula to produce plastics that can degrade faster naturally. There is a case that some scientists tried inventing plastic that can degrade immediately it comes in contact with water. So imagine a plastic that when you throw away in the ocean, it can degrade almost immediately. And these kinds of solutions can become a better alternative than banning plastics, which is why we disagree with today's motion. And secondly, giving penalties for plastic waste littering. With this solution, especially with the help of law enforcement, plastic waste can be reduced due to the civilians being aware that they might break a law relating to plastic waste. If the law enforcement team enforce this law into everyday lives, as enforcing citizens to not litter plastic and providing a place to where to throw plastics instead of littering them anywhere in the ocean or in the streets. This can help reduce plastic waste significantly larger than the solution of banning plastic. And third one is and the final one is giving knowledge in order to raise awareness towards plastic related issues. Now, this solution mostly involves educating people, educating civilians from which either schools or giving seminars about plastic waste and why we should be aware of them. And due to this solution, we can help raise awareness that civilians can be more thoughtful of littering their plastics instead of totally banning the use of plastics. And for the supporting arguments will be stated by my teammates. And that would be all my arguments for today. Thank you for the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I'm going to start my arguments in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to our educators and also our fellow opposition friends. So I would like to rebut a few claims from the opposition teams that the previous speaker of the opposition teams just made. That banning plastic is not a solution. First of all, banning plastic is solutions. They talk about problem solving. There's other problem solving. However, by banning plastic, we believe that banning plastic is the most effective way to reduce plastic waste. And again, I'm going to remind of the definitions that banning the use of plastic, all single use of plastics items. So not every kind of plastic item. There is only the single use, such as plastic that we all usually call. And non-essential plastic products is the most effective way to reduce plastic waste. And they also mentioned that by banning plastic use, it will be complicated. However, they not mentioned how it is complicated. Because if we listen to their problem solving, such as giving penalty and education and create a better formula of plastic, that will actually be more complicated than just banning the plastics. And also, in their fourth argument that create problem solutions, such as create better formula of plastic. Well, what we call plastic here is the plastic that we know that if the government and the industry change the formula of plastic, then it's no longer called a plastic. Then it will be something else that we are not going to talk about here. And then giving penalty of people that using too much plastic, and we don't see any problem here because if we give penalty to people that use too much plastic, then what is the difference then from banning plastic? Because the point of banning plastics is to give penalty for people that use plastics to their daily life. And also there is provide trash can that can provide people to not throw their plastic just in the environment or in their plants. However, we do have trash can here. We do have. Just look outside. We have trash can here, but does people stop throw their plastics in the oceans? No, ladies and gentlemen. Does we cannot find any plastic here in the plants? No, ladies and gentlemen. People still throwing their plastics in wherever they want, even though people provide them a trash can. There's also education. They probably talk about the socializations, about how it is important to keep our plastic in the trash can that is provided by governments, by people. However, there's already a lot of things. There's already a lot of people, a lot of government, a lot of organizations that give educations about how is it so important to not throw plastics in in the seas or in the environment or just wherever you want. However, it is not effective. That a lot of like World Health Organizations like PBB and everything, they still mention that there is still a lot of fish and a lot of creatures suffer because there's still a lot of people that throw their plastics away. So this is why we believe that banning plastics is the most effective way to reduce plastic waste. And I'm going to provide study that why is that to support our arguments why is banning plastics is the most effective way. The first one is Plastic Environments and Human Health, published by the Science and Environmental Forum in 2019, that implementing bans of plastic can effectively reduce the plastics used and reduce the plastic waste. There's also again another studies by Plastic Waste associated with the Alliance on Coral Reefs on 2020, published by the Science, shows that correlations between plastics solutions and the prevalence disease. It provides evidence of detrimental effects of plastics on marine ecosystem support. Banned plastic can effectively protect marine biodiversity. The third one is the cause of plastic pollution evidence from marines and ecosystems. This highlights the potentials, saving and benefits that can be achieved through plastic reductions, especially by banning plastic. There's also, let us imagine, if the government really implementing banning the plastic, what will happen? Hypothetically, what first will happen is eliminated single use of plastic, just like what we are saying that because we ban the single use of plastic, people will indirectly force to choose another alternative than the plastic because they wouldn't want to have penalty just because they're using a plastic. And there's also promotions of sustainable alternatives. Like restaurants or food vendors will replace the plastic to sustainable material. And there's also legislative and policy involve the organization of environmental and also the industry representative. By combining these factors, the ban of plastic will have accompanying effects on reducing the plastic waste. This is why we as the government team really believe that banning the use of plastic will be the most effective way to reduce plastic waste. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon to the honorable educators, opponents, and my team. So I'm as the second speaker as the opposition team. Fully disagree with this motion. First of all, I would like to give some rebuttals. So the government team wants to ban all of the single-use plastic. This is bad. Why is that? Imagine there's a party in a wedding party, and they have to serve a lot of drinks to their customers, their customers. And what did they use? They have to use the single-use plastic. It is a plastic. Okay? It is the most efficient way to serve other people. If we have a party, so this is the single use of plastic. Many of the single use of plastic is still essential for our life, and we cannot ban plastic just like that. And what happens if we ban the plastic, especially the cup plastic that we use to serve a drink? So the effect is people will use a glass, a mirror. Yeah, people will use a glass, and of course, this glass could use continuously. But the thing is, we have to clean it every time, and we use soap to clean the glass. Uh, didn't you know that soap is also hurting environment? Not all just plastic waste that hurting the environment, but soap is also hurting the environment. So there is no good thing that could replace the use of single-use plastic. And also the second speaker of the government team has said that there's a lot of trash can. There's a lot of trash can, but it is stopping people to throw trash into the sea. Well, of course, uh, with in that case, banning plastic is not the best solution because it is a human error, not the plastic, not the fault of plastic. So we don't have to ban the plastic. We have to educate the people. We have to educate the people. It is hard, yes, it is hard to educate people, and there is a lot of yeah, government said to not throw the trash into the sea, and PBB and WHO also said it, but there are still people who throw the trash into the sea. But we cannot give up on this. We cannot give up on educating people because if we give up to educating people, then this country will not advance the country because we want to all of our humans have the ability to think, and we have to educate them. So it is hard to educate people, but still banning the plastic is not the best solution. And I would like to get into my argument first. My first argument is the ban of plastic cannot reduce the plastic itself. I would like to explain. There is a ton of plastic that has been produced by the industries. There's a lot of plastic that has been produced by the factory. Yeah, by the factories. So if we ban the use of plastic, what are we going to do with this plastic? They have been produced with the factories. We cannot just destroy it and burn it all just like that. We have to use this plastic because it's been produced by the industries. And also, burning the plastic will make the industries bankrupt. And what happened? What happened is the people who work in factories, in plastic factories, would would lose their job. We want to save the environment, but many people lost their job. I think it's not a best solution for us to ban the plastic, the single-use plastic for the environment. Also, I would like to give some solution for the plastic waste. So we are giving penalties to the people who use a lot of plastic, not banning all of the plastic. It's a totally different thing. So we want to give penalties to the one who use plastic and isn't aware about the environment. Not banning all of the single-use plastic will be so our life will be so complicated if we ban all of the plastic that has already been made by the industries. And also, there is a case where people aware of this thing and want to replace the use of plastic in the 19th centuries. They want to replace the use of plastic bags with the paper bags. And what happened? What happened is it will affect the world itself. That will affect the environment itself. Why? Because if we want to make a better solution, if we want to ban all of the plastic and made another solution, we have to make another things that can be compositable, that can be degraded by the bacteria in the soil. So all of the ingredients that we need is paper, and another things that came from biological things. This is hurting our environment and our forests because paper bag is using paper. But we know paper is came from a tree. So there will be a big deforestation if we use the paper bag to replace the use of plastic bags. So that's all of our argument. Thank you.
All right, I'll start my three. All right, esteemed judges, fellow debaters, teammates. Today I will be rebutting and also strengthening my previous teammates' arguments by explaining a little bit further, maybe show a couple of data, and maybe show a hypothetical example or two, while also rebutting the claims made by the opposition. So, first of all, I think the first, if I recall correctly, the first speaker said something about creating a chemical or some new product that can be used similarly to plastic, but like dissolves in water. Not only is dissolving in water a pretty big flaw, but it's also a very hypothetical solution. Now, okay, if we are going with hypothetical, creating something like this would take years. And how much longer do we need to wait? The sea is already full of single-use plastic already, and by the time it finally comes, wow, the new material, it's already here. The one that can be used similarly like plastic, it's finally here by like the year 2039, where the sea is already full of plastic, so it's already far too late. Now, if I remember a article made by the World Health Organization, they were working on a similar product like this, and this product has been in the making since 2017, and they still haven't made any significant progress. So, if I also recall correctly, the other speaker had to say we should not give up on the people in making them be able to understand the dangers of single-use plastic. Now, this is very wishful thinking to how believe that campaigns like this, like being taught at school or maybe seeing a couple posters or two, will completely change their lifestyle on throwing away plastic. Now, extremely wishful thinking. But not only that, it was completely appealing to emotion rather than the facts. People can't just change within a few words. And even if not all of them will decide to change instantly, or they won't, some of them just completely won't listen. Sure, we can't give up with the people, but you have to understand the fact is that no matter how hard we try, there's still a lot of people who won't listen. We've been doing these campaigns for years. Have you seen at school nowadays? There's these Go Green or these Green Generation kids. How like, oh, we should always throw our plastic at the right place. But in the end, they still throw away plastic all over the place, all over beaches, all over the floor. And heck, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the people who even says this are the same people who's throwing away the plastic. Sometimes the people who have been assigned to do these campaigns are the same people who don't even care about what they're saying. They're saying this just for clout. They're saying this that they're saying this just because they're forced to.
Maybe they're forced to by the teachers. They're just doing this for a paycheck. I've seen this because I was in the green generation back when I was in junior high school, and it was a big mess. Now, also, the second speaker also said something about how stopping plastic won't actually stopping plastic by the use of the ban, right? Won't actually stop the production of not won't actually stop like not actually reduce plastic. That's what they said. How banning plastic overall, single-use plastic overall, will not do anything to the currently used plastic. No, I believe that one of the biggest flaws with recycling constant flow of uh, the constant flow of the use it's a constant flow of plastic that comes in. Coca-Cola, the manufacturer, um, yeah, Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola brand makes Coca-Cola, obviously, but they manufacture hundreds of thousands of bottles, close to millions, every minute. This this itself, how can you believe in recycling when we already make that much within 1 minute, that much plastic within 1 minute? How can we say how can they say that banning the single-use plastic won't reduce it? We can recycle. Finally, recycling will be really a lot more effective. Recycling is super ineffective at times just because of the constant, immeasurable flow of plastic that comes in. And this is only from one company. There's other companies like Pepsi and other companies like Papua itself. I mean, in Indonesia, there's already a lot of companies that use plastics, single-use plastics, like for Cheetos and the other types of snacks you eat. They produce a lot every minute, and they have the guts to say that stopping the continuous production of this plastic with a ban will not reduce plastic. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we get to see here that not only is banning plastic will finally be able to fix the problem with recycling because of how ineffective it is due to the continuous flow of plastic that comes in every minute from every country around the world, especially China. Now, you also get to see from my other previous teammates' arguments how it makes people sick, how microplastics not only affect water life, plant life, even our own bodies. They cause indigestion. They cause other types of sicknesses and they even go inside your skin. And yeah, we have to reduce plastic right now. And their arguments, especially the one where they were relying on hypothetically creating this new solution, this new chemical that will help everything, that will fix it, is too unreliable, too hypothetical, doesn't have any real backing to it. And that's why I believe my team has a more coherent argument, a more realistic approach towards the problem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, chairperson, timekeeper, and the educators, my teammates from government and the government team. I am representing the third speaker for the opposition team. One reason why plastic is an environmental nuisance is because humans kept producing them in a non-biodegradable way. But if we're producing plastic in a biodegradable way, then plastic waste won't be a problem. I would like to also explain, if I'm not mistaken, the government team were asking, what do we mean by complicated?
Uh, so our team stated that if we ban plastic totally, our everyday lives will have become much more complicated. But what do we mean with complicated? We meant that if we ban plastics, that would turn our modern lifestyles back to when we haven't invented plastics. It's like going back into the past. While we created plastics to make our life much more easier. As my first speaker and second speaker also has stated, that banning plastic is not a good way to decrease plastic waste. Plastic is something close to human society in modern day. And if the third speaker of the government team also stated that even if we make a campaign or um, suggest people, civilians, to recycle more, but in reality, people are still not listening to the suggestion. Well, if we try to educate people, but they still won't listen, this is why we suggested the penalty solution with the help of law enforcement so that it will be more efficient and it will be more efficient and more it will be a better solution rather than banning plastics. For example, creating a state rule that involves punishing plastic litters, fines that requires plastic litters to pay more for breaking this law, and much more laws. Pardon me. And much more laws can be can reduce plastics. That's why we should encourage people to support the more alternative way, the more eco-friendly way, the more eco-friendly. There are cost effective and energy efficient type of plastic. For example, cancellable plastic introduced in Bali. Cancellable plastic has been introduced in Bali and has been scientifically proved can hold a water for say roughly 1 to 2 days. It has been mainly focused to be a cup base of plastic so that it can hold water. And I would also like to question the government teams. Even though if you ban the uses of plastics, will banning plastics prove or have evidence that it will work? Because in worldwide, there is no country in the world that have banned the use of single-use plastic. But in countries that are developed and more economically stable, like Japan, Germany, and other developed countries, they introduce more of alternative eco-friendly plastic rather than banning them. It seems banning plastics seems kind of too critical that it might not be more effective than we are making the alternative eco-friendly plastics. That's why we believe that banning the usage of plastics is not the best solution to decrease plastic waste. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the opportunity for me to be standing here again as the reply speaker for the opposition team on today's topic that why do we not agree with this motion that we should ban the use of plastics? Well, our opposition team, we do not agree with today's motion because banning plastics is not a good solution to plastic waste. Now, we have come up with a conclusion based on all the arguments that we have. And also, we have come up with a solution that can be a better alternative than banning the use of plastic in total. So, in conclusion, based on all the arguments that we have stated, that plastic has become an important part in our everyday lives, and it cannot be separated from us. That we need plastics in order to make our lives much more simpler. And if we ban plastics, we might make our lives much more complicated, as if we are returning to the past. So banning plastics is not a good solution in order to reduce the plastic waste issues that we face today. It is only because we see so much plastics being littered in oceans and in public spaces that we are going to ban plastic, and rather than banning the use of plastics. But first of all, I would like to come up with the reasons why we come up with this conclusion. So, first of all, plastic has become the main component in modern life, so we can't just ban it. So, it's gonna take a long time for us to move on from plastics because, as my team has stated before, that we already produce so much plastics that what are we gonna do with them if we ban them? Are we gonna burn them? We can't burn them. That's gonna create, it's gonna destroy the earth even more, or maybe just as bad as throwing plastics in the ocean. And secondly, banning plastics with an alternating solution, such as using paper bags, can increase the emission of carbon in our planet. So what we mean by this is if we ban plastics and move on to the alternatives such as paper bags that use paper as the main ingredient, we cut down more trees. That's going to create less oxygen, which can which can not help prevent the carbon emissions from destroying our ecosystem. And the third one is banning plastics can affect the economy. So as we have stated before, that if we decided to ban plastics in total, what are we going to do about the industries that is producing these plastics? What are we going to do with workers that has lost their jobs due to this policy? So because of this, we have come up with a solution from based on our arguments and our conclusion that we come up today. Our solutions would be one, to create a better method and formula to produce plastics, such as creating a better way in producing plastics. First, single-use plastics that can degrade faster in nature, and also creating a better formula that can make plastics less dangerous and hazardous that can turn into microplastics that we consume. Second one is giving penalties for plastic waste littering. With this solution, especially with the help of law enforcement, we can help enforce our third solution, which is giving knowledge in order to raise awareness towards plastic-related issues. So, as we have stated before, and as we have stated before, we have given so much effort in educating people from schools to seminars about plastic awareness, but people still won't listen, and that our point that we have stated before. That'll be all for me. Thank you for your time and attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
To start my topic, we here the educators, there are at least five argumentations that the opposition gives, the opposition provides to the government teams. And the first one is the create problem solutions. And one of the argument was create better formula of plastics. However, me as the second speaker of the government teams, already rebut the argument that a new formula of plastic is no longer can be called plastic, and they did not rebut their argument. That they failed to explain that how is the new formula of plastic is called plastics. And also they mentioned, the second speaker of the opposition teams, they mentioned about it is hard to educate people. And it is just support our argument that it means that by banning plastics is the most effective way to ban plastic. They just mentioned that educated people is not effective to reduce plastic waste. And there also, the second speaker of the opposition team also mentioned that so also hurting the environment. So even if so hurting our environment, still that the main things that hurting our environment is still plastic, and they also did not give any data or resource or study that provide that proof that soap is hurting our environment more than plastic. And also, they also ask us, what will we do to those plastics that already has been produced? However, our purpose here just reduce. So at least, even if there are still plastic, we are not adding more and more plastic to the world. They also mentioned about unemployment. However, unemployment, if people already work to a plastics industry, for example, and because the policy of banning the plastics, it will automatically make the industry produced plastics will change their industry to, I will probably say, the new formula of plastic. They will say it means that there will not be an unemployment. There are also mentioned about the paper bag. However, it supports our arguments that promotions alternative way. And we know that if you're using paper bag, we will use it not only once, we can use it twice, we can use it three times. So it's not one single. So paper bag is not one single use of plastic. So it is different. It is included to our arguments a new, more sustainable of alternatives from plastics. There's also evidence they mentioned that in Japan or else, actually they have lack of data that more developed countries actually use alternative plastic bags instead of using supposedly eco-friendly plastics. And also they say that it cannot be separated from our list. However, which is why we have to ban the plastics and give people a new alternative of other plastics. And even though we are not agreed, but even if that our lives will be more complicated when we ban single use of plastic. So what? No solution is without drawback. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to do the right thing, not the easier thing. This is why we all strongly believe that banning the plastic is the best way to reduce plastic waste. Thank you very much.